Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special journey into the things you may have never known about gemstones. Today's video is not about the most expensive stones, and it's not about gemstones surrounded by hype or marketing. This is a journey through 10 stones that, for centuries, even thousands of years, people have believed could bring inner strength during their weakest moments. And here's what makes this list different. The stone ranked number one in this video is not expensive at all. In fact, its price may surprise you because there's a real chance you already own it without ever realizing the role it once played in history. So don't skip this video if you don't want to miss the unique qualities these stones have been associated with for generations, not through blind belief, but through human experience passed down over time. If you feel this could be the beginning of something new, leave a comment saying, "I like this video," so I know you're joining me on this journey into the world of gemstones. Stay until the very end to discover the stone ranked number one. You might already have it with you right now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you're busy and can't watch right now, save this video, because this isn't just a video. It's a fascinating journey into stones you may have never truly understood before. Before we begin, remember this. Strength doesn't always arrive loudly. So we start with the quietest stone on this list. Rank 10. Rank 10, Selenite, the stone that doesn't fight illness. It sits with you through it. Rank 10 is Selenite, and this is not a stone that demands your attention. In fact, if you rush past it, you'll miss it entirely. The first time I held a piece of selenite in my hands, it felt almost unreal. Light, fragile, and cool, as if it wasn't fully meant for this world. Its color is a soft, milky white, sometimes translucent, with a faint lunar glow that seems to shift when the light moves. Most natural selenite forms in long blades or flat column-like sheets, etched with fine parallel lines, like quiet fingerprints left by time itself. As an archaeological journalist, what struck me most was where selenite appears in ancient contexts, not in royal tombs, not among weapons or symbols of power, but in places of rest, healing temples, sacred sleeping chambers, and spaces associated with recovery. This was never a stone of conquest, it was a stone of endurance. Today, selenite remains remarkably accessible. A natural piece often sells for anywhere between $5 and $30, depending on size and clarity, and that affordability matters. Historically, this was not a mineral reserved for elites. It was a stone meant to comfort, quietly, personally, without ceremony. So why does selenite belong in spiritual healing, 10 stones many say can bring strength during illness? Because when illness strips people of energy, strength is no longer about pushing forward. It's about staying present. Selenite has long been associated with mental calm, emotional release, and a sense of inner stillness during times of vulnerability. Many believed it didn't heal the body directly. It softened the mind enough to let healing begin. Selenite doesn't promise victory. It offers permission. Permission to rest. Permission to feel fragile. And sometimes that quiet allowance is the strongest support a person can receive. So let me ask you this. If someone you love is ill, would you place beside them a symbol of power or a stone that reminds them they don't have to be strong today? But calm alone was never enough. When silence settled, people began searching for clarity. And that brings us to rank 9. Rank 9, clear quartz. The stone. Many cultures turned to when nothing else was certain. Rank 9 is clear quartz, and at first glance, it almost feels too simple to matter. Colorless, transparent, often shaped into rough points or naturally formed prisms, clear quartz looks like frozen water caught mid-breath. Light passes through it easily, sometimes breaking into subtle internal fractures, tiny worlds trapped inside a single crystal. No dramatic color, no visual drama. And yet, archaeologically, this is one of the most consistently present stones across human history. As a journalist working alongside archaeologists, I've seen clear quartz appear in places separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time. Paleolithic sites in Europe, ancient Asian ritual spaces, and early healing traditions across the Americas. When cultures had little in common, they still reached for this stone. That alone tells us something. Clear quartz was never chosen for decoration alone. It was associated with clarity, balance, and resilience of the mind. In periods of illness, uncertainty, or communal stress, people believed it helped steady thought, not by adding strength, but by removing noise. When fear overwhelms the body, clarity becomes its own form of endurance. Today, clear quartz remains widely available. Prices typically range from $3 to $40, depending on size and natural formation. Historically, that accessibility mattered. This was not a luxury mineral. It was a shared tool, something ordinary people could hold on to when answers were scarce. So why does clear quartz belong in spiritual healing? 10 stones many say can bring strength during illness. Because illness clouds judgment as much as it weakens the body. Many believe clear quartz helped organize thought, calm internal chaos, and restore a sense of inner alignment when everything else felt out of control. Clear quartz doesn't comfort with warmth, it comforts with clarity. And when someone is sick, knowing what you feel, instead of being lost inside it, can be a quiet but powerful form of strength. Here's the question I'll leave you with. When you're facing illness, do you seek comfort that soothes your emotions, or clarity that helps you face what's happening head on? Clarity helps the mind, but when energy fades, people turn to something that reminds them why to keep going. That is where rank 8 enters the story. Rank 8, Carnelian, the stone people reach for when the body felt weak but the will couldn't be. Rank 8 is Carnelian, and this stone feels very different the moment you encounter it. Carnelian carries warm tones of burnt orange, deep amber, and blood red, sometimes layered like fading embers inside the stone. Its surface is usually smooth, rounded by time, often found as polished nodules or naturally tumbled pieces. Even before archaeology gives it context, Carnelian looks alive, like something that still holds heat. From an archaeological perspective, Carnelian appears where human effort was pushed to its limits. It shows up in ancient Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and early Roman sites, often worn close to the body, carved into seals, or placed among personal belongings rather than ceremonial altars. This was not a stone meant to be admired from a distance. It was meant to be carried. Historically, carnelian was associated with vital force, courage, and persistence. During times of illness, people believed it helped rekindle inner fire, not by denying weakness, but by preventing the spirit from collapsing under it. When the body slowed down, carnelian symbolized the will to keep going, even gently. In today's market, carnelian remains accessible. Most natural pieces range between $5 and $25, depending on color depth and polish. That affordability mirrors its past. This was never a stone of privilege. It was a stone of survival, worn by travelers, laborers, and those recovering their strength day by day. So why does carnelian belong in spiritual healing 10 stones? Many say can bring strength during illness, because illness doesn't just drain energy, it erodes motivation. Carnelian was believed to support the quiet decision to rise again, to eat, to walk, to try, even when progress felt slow. Carnelian doesn't soothe like a whisper. It encourages like a low, steady flame, not rushing you forward, just reminding you that warmth still exists inside. And here's something to consider. When strength fades, is it more important to feel calm or to feel a reason to keep moving, even one small step at a time? Yet strength without calm can become exhaustion. So the next stone was trusted not to push forward, but to slow everything down. This is rank 7. Rank 7, blue lace agate. The stone people turned to when silence was the only medicine left. Rank 7 is blue lace agate, and this is a stone that speaks by not raising its voice. Its color is unmistakable, a soft sky blue, layered with delicate white bands that drift across the surface like slow-moving clouds. The patterns are gentle, never sharp, never chaotic. Most blue lace agate forms in rounded nodules and is often polished to reveal its flowing lace-like lines. Visually, it feels calm before you even know its name. From an archaeological and historical perspective, stones like blue lace agate were not associated with battle, power, or dominance. They appear instead in contexts linked to speech, ritual calm, and emotional balance. Across ancient cultures, blue stones were often connected to the throat, breath, and the act of expression, especially in moments when words were difficult to find. During illness, silence can become heavy. People withdraw. Thoughts remain unspoken. Historically, blue lace agate was believed to ease that inner pressure, not by forcing conversation, but by allowing emotions to settle gently enough to be released. It was associated with soothing anxiety, quieting overthinking, and restoring emotional rhythm when the mind felt overwhelmed. In modern markets, blue lace agate is still approachable. Most pieces fall between $10 and $40, depending on clarity and pattern. That accessibility mirrors its role through history. This was not a stone for elites or priests alone. It was a personal stone, kept close, touched often, relied on quietly. So why does blue lace agate belong in spiritual healing 10 stones? Many say can bring strength during illness. Because strength is not always visible. Sometimes it's the ability to slow your breathing, to calm racing thoughts, to sit with discomfort without letting it turn into fear. Blue lace agate doesn't push. It doesn't energize. It creates space. And in that space, people believed healing could begin. So here's something worth thinking about. When illness overwhelms the mind, do you need something that gives you answers? Or something that finally allows your thoughts to fall quiet? Calm is powerful, but healing is rarely instant. For those facing long recoveries, people relied on rank 6. Rank 6, Unakite, the stone people trusted. When healing was slow, and had to be. Rank 6 is Unakite, and this is not a stone of miracles. Its appearance alone tells you that. Unakite is a mix of soft, mossy green and muted salmon pink, blended unevenly, almost imperfectly, within the same stone. The colors don't compete, they coexist. Most Unakite appears in rounded, dense forms, often polished smooth, but never flashy. It looks grounded, real, patient. From an archaeological perspective, Unakite doesn't appear in dramatic ritual settings. Instead, stones like it show up in everyday human contexts: settlements, long-term dwelling sites, places where people live through seasons rather than moments. This was not a stone for sudden transformation. It was associated with gradual recovery and emotional balance over time. Historically, Unakite was believed to support healing that couldn't be rushed. In periods of prolonged illness or physical weakness, people turned to symbols that reflected reality. Not instant strength, but steady progress. The green was linked to restoration and growth. The pink to emotional resilience and compassion toward oneself. Together, they formed a reminder that healing often happens unevenly. In today's market, Unakite is modestly priced. Most pieces range from $5 to $20, depending on size and finish. That modest value reflects its role across history. This was never a status stone. It was a companion stone, meant to stay with someone through long stretches of uncertainty. So why does Unakite belong in spiritual healing, 10 stones many say can bring strength during illness? Because long illness doesn't just exhaust the body, it wears down hope. Unakite was believed to help people accept slow healing without interpreting it as failure, to recognize that resting, waiting, and stabilizing are forms of strength too. Unakite doesn't inspire urgency, it encourages patience. And for those recovering inch by inch, that mindset can mean everything. So let me leave you with this question. When healing takes longer than expected, do you judge yourself for not being better? Or can you accept that staying steady is already a kind of progress? Patience keeps you steady, but there are moments when you need to feel anchored. That's why rank 5 mattered so deeply. Rank 5, Hematite, the stone ancient people trusted when the world felt unstable. Rank 5 is Hematite, and this stone carries weight, literally and symbolically. Hematite is instantly recognizable by its dark metallic gray to near black surface, often with a subtle mirror-like sheen. It feels heavy for its size, cool and dense in the hand. Naturally, it forms in compact masses or smooth, rounded shapes, and when polished, it reflects light like burnished iron. There's nothing delicate about it. Hematite feels anchored, as if it refuses to be moved easily. From an archaeological standpoint, hematite appears early and often. It was used by ancient civilizations across Africa, Mesopotamia, Rome, and Greece, not just as ornament, but as protection. Warriors carried it, travelers kept it close. In ritual contexts, it symbolized blood, earth, and physical reality, the undeniable presence of the body itself. During illness, ancient people believed hematite served a very specific purpose: grounding. When fear, weakness, or confusion pulled the mind away from the body, hematite was thought to pull awareness back down, into breath, into weight, into the present moment. Strength in this sense was not about force, it was about staying rooted when everything felt uncertain. Today, hematite remains affordable and common. Most natural or polished pieces range from $5 to $25. Historically, that accessibility mattered. Hematite wasn't reserved for kings or priests. It was used by ordinary people facing real, physical hardship. So why does hematite belong in spiritual healing, 10 stones? Many say it can bring strength during illness, because illness often makes people feel disconnected from their own bodies, lightheaded, anxious, unsteady. Hematite was believed to restore a sense of physical presence, reminding the wearer, "You are still here." Hematite doesn't comfort emotionally. It stabilizes physically. And sometimes that solid sense of being grounded is exactly what allows the mind to rest. So here's a question to consider. When illness makes you feel unsteady, do you look for reassurance in thoughts and emotions? Or something that pulls you firmly back into your body in the present moment? Stability grounds the body, but illness also unsettles the mind. So people reach for rank 4. Rank 4, Amazonite. The stone people turned to when the mind needed calm more than answers. Rank 4 is Amazonite, and this stone has always carried a quiet contradiction. Its color sits somewhere between soft turquoise and muted green, often streaked with pale white lines that look almost accidental, as if calm itself cracked under pressure. Amazonite typically forms in blocky, smooth shapes, sometimes polished, sometimes left raw, but always with a cooling presence. Even visually, it feels like a pause. From a historical and archaeological perspective, Amazonite appears in cultures that valued emotional control and clear speech. It was used in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and later civilizations, often carved into amulets or placed among personal objects rather than public symbols. Legends later tied it to the Amazons, not because it symbolized aggression, but because it represented composure under strain. During illness, that distinction mattered. When the body weakens, the mind often races, fear, questions, imagined outcomes. Amazonite was believed to soften that internal noise, not by silencing emotion, but by regulating it. Ancient users associated it with balance between thought and feeling, especially when stress threatened to overwhelm recovery. Today, Amazonite remains reasonably priced. Most natural pieces range from $10 to $40 depending on color richness and size. Historically, this wasn't a gemstone of wealth. It was a stone of mental survival, something kept close during periods of vulnerability. So why does Amazonite belong in spiritual healing 10 stones? Many say can bring strength during illness, because illness doesn't just test the body, it tests emotional stability. Amazonite was believed to help people respond instead of react, to slow the inner dialogue enough to breathe, to listen, and to rest without spiraling. Amazonite doesn't energize. It doesn't ground like iron. It steadies the space between thought and emotion. And here's the question I'll leave you with. When you're unwell, is your greatest struggle physical pain or the constant conversation happening inside your own mind? Calm thoughts help you cope, but some stones were trusted to do something harder, to help people face what illness uncovered. This brings us to rank 3. Rank 3, Malachite, the stone ancient healers respected because it never pretended to be gentle. Rank 3 is Malachite, and this is a stone that never hides what it is. Its color is unmistakable, deep emerald green, layered with swirling bands and concentric rings that look almost alive. No two pieces are the same. Malachite usually forms in dense, heavy masses, often polished to reveal its dramatic patterns. Visually, it feels intense, purposeful, almost confrontational. From an archaeological standpoint, malachite carries serious weight. It was used extensively in ancient Egypt, not just as jewelry, but as a protective and transformative material. It appears in burial contexts, amulets, and even ground into pigments. This was not a decorative stone. It was considered powerful and potentially dangerous if misunderstood. Historically, malachite was associated with deep emotional change. During illness, ancient people believed suffering was not only physical, but psychological. Fear, grief, loss of identity. Malachite symbolized confrontation. It wasn't meant to calm you down. It was meant to help you face what illness brought to the surface. That intensity is why malachite was handled carefully. Even today, raw malachite is not meant to be worn casually. And yet, despite its perceived power, it remains relatively accessible. Most polished pieces range from $20 to $60, depending on quality and pattern. So why does malachite belong in spiritual healing 10 stones? Many say can bring strength during illness. Because not all healing is gentle. Sometimes strength comes from acknowledging fear, anger, or grief instead of suppressing them. Malachite represented the belief that transformation begins only after honesty. Malachite doesn't soothe, it challenges. And for those facing illness, that confrontation can become a turning point. So here's the question to sit with. When illness changes your life, do you seek comfort that softens the experience or truth that forces you to grow through it? Facing truth takes courage, and for that, people turn to rank 2. Rank 2, Obsidian. The stone ancient people used when they were ready to face what hurt. Rank 2 is Obsidian, and this stone has never been misunderstood. Obsidian is born from fire. Volcanic glass, formed when molten lava cools so rapidly that crystals never have time to grow. Its color is most often deep black, sometimes glossy like a mirror, sometimes matte and absorbing light entirely. It usually forms in sharp-edged fragments or smooth, rounded pieces, shaped by time and water. Even when polished, it carries a sense of danger. Not because it threatens you, but because it refuses to lie. In archaeological contexts, obsidian is everywhere humans face survival head-on. It was used for tools, blades, and ritual objects across Mesoamerica, Anatolia, the Mediterranean, and the Near East. This was a stone of truth and consequence. It cut cleanly, physically and symbolically. During illness, ancient cultures associated obsidian with protection through awareness, not comfort, not denial. They believed it exposed hidden fears, suppressed emotions, and internal tensions that illness often brings to the surface. Obsidian didn't promise peace. It promised clarity, even when that clarity was uncomfortable. Today, obsidian remains accessible. Most natural pieces range from $5 to $35, depending on size and finish. Historically, that mattered. This was not a stone reserved for priests or royalty. It was a tool ordinary people used when they needed to confront reality without illusions. So why does obsidian belong in spiritual healing? 10 stones, many say, can bring strength during illness. Because illness doesn't just weaken the body, it strips away false certainty. Obsidian was believed to help people face fear directly instead of letting it grow unchecked in the dark. Obsidian doesn't reassure, it reveals. And sometimes seeing the truth clearly is what prevents fear from controlling the mind. So here's the question to leave you with. When you're unwell, do you seek comfort that hides your fear, or clarity that forces you to look at it and take your power back? And finally, when nothing could be escaped, when the weight had to be carried, people returned to rank 1. Rank 1, Smoky Quartz. The stone people returned to when life felt heavy and there was no way around it. Rank 1 is Smoky Quartz, and this stone earns its place not through beauty, but through honesty. Its color ranges from soft brown to deep charcoal gray, sometimes nearly translucent, sometimes dark like fog trapped in crystal. Smoky quartz typically forms in natural points or rough clusters, with internal shadows that seem to move as light shifts. It doesn't sparkle, it absorbs. And that alone tells you what kind of stone this is. From an archaeological perspective, smoky quartz appears in Celtic, Roman, and early European contexts, often in everyday spaces rather than ceremonial ones. It wasn't reserved for rulers or warriors. It was kept by ordinary people, travelers, laborers, the sick, those who lived close to hardship and didn't have the luxury of spiritual fantasy. Historically, smoky quartz was associated with grounding and emotional endurance. During illness, ancient people believed fear could pull the mind away from the body into panic, despair, or helplessness. Smoky quartz symbolized the opposite movement, coming back down, back into weight, back into breath, back into the reality that, painful or not, still had to be lived. Today, smoky quartz remains widely available. Most pieces range from $5 to $40, depending on size and clarity. And that accessibility matters. This stone has never belonged to an elite narrative of healing. It belongs to real life, to people who need stability more than miracles. So why does smoky quartz stand at the top of spiritual healing? 10 stones, many say, can bring strength during illness. Because illness is heavy, physically, emotionally, existentially. Smoky quartz doesn't pretend otherwise. It doesn't try to lift the weight away. It helps you carry it without breaking. Smoky quartz doesn't inspire hope. It offers steadiness. And when everything feels overwhelming, staying grounded can be the strongest act of all. So here's the final question for you. When life becomes unbearably heavy, do you look for something that promises escape, or something that helps you stand firmly inside the weight and endure it? And now, as this journey comes to an end, it's worth remembering one thing. These stones were never meant to replace medicine. They were never promises of miracles. For centuries, they existed for a different reason. To sit beside people when strength was fading, to offer comfort when answers were uncertain, and to remind them that endurance itself is a form of power. Whether you believe in their spiritual meaning or not, what cannot be denied is this. Humans have always reached for symbols when words were not enough. If one of these stones stood out to you today, perhaps it wasn't by accident. Perhaps it simply reflected something you're carrying right now. If this video felt meaningful to you, let me know by leaving a comment. I read every one of them. And if you'd like to continue this journey, exploring the hidden histories, quiet symbolism, and forgotten roles of gemstones across time, don't forget to subscribe. Save this video if you want to return to it later. Some journeys aren't meant to be rushed. Until next time, take care and stay grounded.